Happy Wednesday. Welcome to BIPOC Executive Search Inc. live series. On today's session, we will be diving into our topic, how to better position yourself to a recruitment firm. I am your host, Stacey Ann Buchanan, she, her, and I will be joined by my incredible teammates, Shirley Lay, she, her, Candace Frederick, she, her, Zoe Vandekis, they, them, and Lori Toulouse, she, her. Welcome, everyone. So we're all here. Welcome. Before I start today's session, I would love to pass it over to my teammate, Shirley, as she will be stating our land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Stacey Ann. So as I offer the land acknowledgement, my invitation for you is to not just listen, but to hear my words on a soul level, allowing the message to reverberate throughout your entire being. We humbly acknowledge the land that we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. This statement is not just an acknowledgement, but a call to action. We invite you to reflect on how today's learning will benefit Indigenous peoples and how you will continue to move from acknowledgement to solidarity, kinship, and relationship building with Indigenous communities.
Thank you, Shirley. I also want to state that here at BIPOC Executive Search Inc., we acknowledge that tomorrow, September 30th, is Orange Shirt Day, an annual national event held in Canada. It is a day to honor residential school survivors and their families, and to remember those who were deprived the opportunity to return home. Since May of this year, 2021, the remains of over 5,000 Indigenous children have been recovered at former residential schools across Canada. The government recently passed a legislation to make September 30th a federal statutory day of commemoration called the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. This day also provides an opportunity for us to all recognize and bear witness to the ancestral trauma inflicted on Indigenous peoples as a direct result of cultural genocide and forced labor, relocation, and separation of children from families to further European imperialistic agendas. It is imperative that our reflections during this time are not performative. Tomorrow on our company's social media handles, we will be listing suggestions as to how we can be in meaningful reflection during this week in order to show our commitment to center Indigenous lives and voices and to advocate for Indigenous autonomy, self-determination, and sovereignty. Let's get into today's live session. How are you all doing? First of all.
Good.
Good. Okay, so we are good. This is going to be our first live where it's a little bit shorter. It's 45 minutes, but we're still going to be dropping all these gems to you. So I suggest, like I always do, I'm very old school, that you get a notepad and you get a pen because you want to boost up that LinkedIn profile. We are the team. We're going to tell you how to do that. Okay. So we're going to dive into question number one right off the bat. What are the first few things that a search firm will look out for on a candidate's LinkedIn profile or resume? For instance, do they go straight to the section that highlights skills, or do they focus on one's previous work experience? Lori, do you want to take this question first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. Annie, hello, everyone. So what's really important? What do we first look at for myself? Their previous work experience is really integral to their profile. So whatever I can get from that is what's really important. So whether it be years of experience at a particular institution or organization, have they progressed in their career? What levels have they moved from in that time frame, even if it's been for 10 years? What roles have you taken on, which also include different responsibilities, which is all really important. And then also too, the about section, which I think is really unique to every individual. A lot of people write something that you don't find on a resume or a CV, which is really interesting to sort of get an insight into who that individual might be. And so those are some of the first things that I look for when I'm looking at someone's LinkedIn profile, for instance. And then I'll hand it off to some of my colleagues to answer.
Sure.
Thanks, Stacey Ann.
No problem. Zoe, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to jump in. I think that Lori, you had some, great things to say. I think that that importance on looking at the work experience first definitely resonates, but that about section and that bio really does speak to those interpersonal skills. And I think that that characteristic part of the candidate that is so vital, right? Because it kind of speaks to how this person is going to mesh into the role, or how this person is as a leader moving into this position, how that person just in general is going to coexist with their professional colleagues, right? It kind of speaks to their character. And yeah, you can't write those things necessarily on a resume. So those bio and about sections, as much as the technical skills really do matter, don't get me wrong, those little briefs that that an individual can give about themselves really do speak volumes.
Thank you, Zoe. Shirley?
Thanks, Stacey Ann. So our wonderful partner, Helen McConan at our firm, mentioned that she loves to take a look at a person's current location. Sometimes folks, they tend to keep it on the more generic side. So they'll tell us that they are in the UK, in Canada, or the US, but they may not say specifically where exactly that they're at. So if possible, if confidentiality is not an issue, please include that information, because the more specificity you can give us, the more that we can tailor our approach to you. We don't sell you an opportunity that is on the other side of the world, or that isn't suitable given your social network or your family system. So ensure to keep your location up to date if possible would be great.
Thank you, Shirley. Candace?
Thanks, Stacey Ann. I just had to unmute myself for a second there. Just to add to what Shirley was saying about specificity, I think because we are often recruiting for senior leadership roles, so a lot of the scan of LinkedIn is thinking about how you might be able to add value. So I think anything that you can add that's specific to maybe even reporting structure, or budgets you've managed, or the number of people on teams and that you've happened to manage, or even workshops that you've facilitated, because it gives us a sense of, things that you've done that you might want to do again, and then, any potential. And I know sometimes those kinds of things are specific to resumes, but I think you can also add them to your LinkedIn profile too.
Absolutely. I love this, because what I'm getting from this is like what you probably don't have on your resume that you can send in, you can show this on your LinkedIn profile, because it gives a little bit of personal approach, right, to who you are and to the stuff that you've done. Thank you for that. I'm going to get into question number 2. In some ways, this question may be similar to the first, but let's see what else comes to mind for you when it's asked. What are additional things someone can add to their LinkedIn profile, or particularly focus on, to ensure that it boosts their marketability? Lori?
Yeah, I was excited for this question, because just another point to add to people's diversity as individuals and what they can bring to a workplace. Adding their languages is really unique to each individual. Also, what else? Volunteer experience and board work as well, which also may add to something that we're looking for in a role, because you might be advocating on the side in your personal life, and that's how you volunteer, and that's how you show up for your communities. And then for your workplace, you might be involved in finance or other areas that are your professional expertise, but sometimes you can still meld all that together and bring all your identities together in your workplace, which I think is really unique for people. When you add those elements on there, we can sort of get an insight to that. And like Candace said, then we know how to sort of tailor it to an individual and Shirley said too, when we're approaching them. So I think all of those kind of things are really important as well.
That's amazing. See, I didn't think that you could add like your volunteer experience, but that's true. Like, that is so true. I appreciate that. Anyone wants to jump in with anything else to add? Because I think these are all great points. And I was taking down notes for this, Lori. Thank you. Anything else to add? Or can we move on to question number 3?
I love what, oh, Shirley, go ahead. I was
Oh,
about to
fun.
cut you off, but you can definitely go first.
Okay, I'm gonna go quickly, and then I want you to go, Zoe. So a really brilliant thing that I found on someone's profile was that they did an infographic of some of their thought leadership on how they should engage in their particular industry, and it was really captivating. I didn't know what it was. I opened it, and as soon as I opened it, there's lots of vibrancy to it, lots of images and some words depicting this person's approach to their work, where they think the industry should move, and how they add value to a particular line of work. So that was something that I found really unique. Haven't seen anywhere in anyone else's profile. So for folks out there who are interested in crafting a one-pager, something like that, it really gives you that edge. It gives you that little bit more for somebody to want to click on your profile and look further.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is incredible. Wow. Okay, so let me take notes.
That's what I didn't know that either. I just think that layering aspect adds immense stuff to that profile. I just think that ability just now brings you from speaking on your professional experience to now having so many other layers to be able to say, this is who I am, and this is how I come into the professional workspace. What you both said with regard to volunteer work, I think that's particularly important, more so because for individuals who are looking to be involved in certain work that may not be accessible to them with regard to professional opportunities, I think that ability to hop onto boards or to hop onto different volunteer experiences or roles really does give light to where that individual puts their time when they aren't necessarily working in their paid positions or in the positions that are at the forefront of their professional careers. So yeah, I really do think that, like Lori mentioned, the emphasis on that volunteer work being shown and for how long it's kept under an individual's belt is super vital. I think it just shows where their passions sometimes really are.
Thank you, Zoe. I appreciate learning all of this because, to be very honest with you, I didn't think your volunteer experience really mattered that much on LinkedIn. But this is great tips, and I hope everyone that's listening right now, I really hope that you're taking in all these gems that we are dropping. We're going to move into question number 3, and it says, people often say that when others recommend you on LinkedIn, it makes your profile more appealing to potential employers. How important is this in your opinion? Candace, would love to hear your opinion on this.
I'd love to hear my opinion too. Here it is. Yeah, so I guess on the topic of really, we're talking about, recommendations, and now we're getting into the territory of what people have to say about you. And I think for me, the importance of this is that we're getting into the territory of interpersonal skills and relationship building. And so I think that this does actually carry a bit of weight. And I don't think that you can have too many, if there's such a thing. Because I think that the more people that you have coming forward and commenting on, how you've contributed, or more importantly, what it's been like to work with you, what it's been like to engage with you. I think of these as kind of mini references, in a way.
Yes.
Even though we think about references as later on in the process. And I think what I also want to say is that don't be deterred if you have an absence of recommendations either.
Thank you for that.
Because that doesn't speak to your interpersonal skills in any particular way. I think that sometimes it can be hard to just even remember to ask people to add in a recommendation about you. And I'll just say that I often forget to do this, myself. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you, Candace. So I would love to hear your take on this.
Yeah, Candace, I think that those were all really, really, really important and valid points. I think on the aspect of it not to be deterred if you don't have any recommendations. Yeah, that's entirely true. And I think that the ability to have them, adds that layer to your profile. But at the same time, it's not something that individual should get, I guess, deterred, upset over. But I think that the importance of them also lies in the idea of being able to give your colleague or your friend or your employer that kudos factor, right? It's able to say like Lori or Shirley, Candace or Stacey Ann are really great at Adobe Illustrator. And for me to be able to say that, for someone to now look on their profiles and say, oh yeah, you know what, someone can vouch for the fact that all these individuals are amazing at this skill. It's not that you were ever doubted in being amazing at it. I think that someone who was able to work with you in that light is able to kind of say, yeah, I worked with this individual here doing XYZ skills, and they really are amazing. They're who I would go to for it. And I think that also gives that idea of creating a safe and inspiring workplace that gives that idea that you want to motivate your colleagues. This is someone who not only shared skills that they were great at with who they were working with, but they held space to be reassured in that they were great at something or that they're good at the position that they do. So it holds many different values, I think, recommendations, other than just kind of as a researcher or as a recruiter to say like, yeah, now I know that they're good. No, it's less of that and more of their colleagues would give them that pat on the back to say, yeah, they really are.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for that. We are going to move into question number 4. And this one goes, what benefits are there for talent when they join LinkedIn group? I'm so eager to hear this one. Shirley, please, I would love to hear your take on this.
Thanks, Stacey Ann. So by LinkedIn groups, I also interpret that as professional groups, affiliation groups, professional association, affinity groups, right? Groups where you come together because you have shared social identities or even interest groups. So I'm big on coming into community and coming into gatherings and relationship for 4 reasons. The first is that it provides a great opportunity for you to connect with your community for emotional support. We all need validation, witnessing, and acknowledgement of some of the difficulties that we struggle in our industry and also in the job search process. Another piece is that it's good for informational support. We can share information with one another, resources, there's good networking opportunities. Also, it's good for informational interviews with anyone who's in the industry who you aspire to become, inviting them in for a 15-minute conversation about their wisdom and their guidance and how they've moved about in their career would give you tremendous insight in how you might be able to apply it to yourself. There's also mentorship and also sponsorship support that you might find there. So somebody might be able to give you good career advice. Let people know that you are in the job search process. They might even know somebody who can recommend you for a role. The next few things I want to mention is that being in a group also helps storytell you as a professional. When I go into your profile, it gives me a sense of where your interests and values lie. And I try to match those up with some of the searches that I'm working on. Next is that job posts can be advertised within these groups. Here at BIPOC Executive Search, we're working on integrating ourselves into various groups in the community. So we're going to start to promote some of the searches that we're working on. And so through those channels, you'll be able to hear some of the opportunities that we're currently working on. And finally, for those who are really interested in SEO and getting your name and reputation up there in terms of Google searches, it's a good backlink to your page, to your work. So sometimes what we do is we go into various groups in the community. So for example, if I'm looking for a director of finance, I might go into those groups, seeing who has membership in those groups and reach out to those folks. So I would say those are my 4 main reasons why it's a good option to opt into various groups.
Shirley, thank you for that. You said something, and it recently caught my eye a few years ago with knowing the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. Can you just, for anyone else that's probably don't know that there's a difference between having a mentor and having a sponsor, can you elaborate just a little bit on the difference between the two or what each is?
Absolutely. Yeah, so think expansively when we're thinking about mentorship. A lot of us tend to think, well, this person is older or who is further along in their developmental lifespan, or maybe they have more years of experience in the field. I would challenge everyone listening in to regard their peers as also mentors, to also regard those who have fewer years of lived experiences as mentors as well. I used to work with young people in between 18 to 21, and they really schooled me a lot on a lot of justice-seeking language. I was probably 20 years behind them. And so I regarded them as my mentors. So anybody who can make an impact in your life and guide and offer information, I regard those as mentors. Sponsors are those who, and everybody will have a different definition, but for me, people who have access to institutional power, people who are in organizations where they have the ability to influence, to impact because of their title or their level within an organization. So for example, a director would have more access to senior leadership. And so if I let my director know that I would like to be considered for a promotion, I'd like to advance, I'd like increased salary or whatever it is I'm looking for, if I let them know, they'll be able to use their influence to support me in that process and to bridge me to another level of positionality within an organization.
Shirley, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. We're going to get into number 5. And I know the audience are probably loving this too, because like I said, I came across the term knowing that there was a difference between sponsorship and mentorship only a few years ago. So thank you for clarifying for anyone who probably is stuck. We're going to get into number 5. And number 5 goes like this. What is the simplest and most efficient way for one to have their LinkedIn page noticed without extensive activity on the platform? Since some people don't like to be on social media regularly. Lori.
Yeah, thanks. I think what's really important for a lot of individuals, not everyone wants to be so in on social media. They already have Instagram and Twitter and all these other platforms. In addition to, a lot of executive level individuals have their profiles widely available on the internet as well. They might not always check their LinkedIn, or for privacy reasons like to have it more limited. But still want to be open and out there, right? Or promoting the work that they're working on, or any of those kinds of things. Like Shirley had mentioned with groups, showing what groups you're showing support for, posting in these groups. All those kinds of things are important to have a LinkedIn profile for. Now, I think what's really important for a lot of individuals, if you don't want to be that active on LinkedIn in particular, your title says a lot. You don't have to just say your current role at whatever organization you're for or that you're working at. You can actually add words that support who you are. If you work in advocacy work, you can add a word about that, or you're a visionary at marketing, or all of these kind of things that sort of sell you in a different way and how you want to be seen. Which I think is really important for a lot of people. And then we've mentioned it before earlier in this conversation, is the details. So if you do have, or you are comfortable with adding your details as much as you can in all of the sections, the about section, your career, the length of time you're at organizations. Candace already mentioned too, going into detail about the team you lead or any other initiatives that you're involved in. All of those kinds of things I think are really important, in addition to interests. And yeah, as much as you can, and your contact information, which is always helpful as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lori. Zoe, what's your take on this?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like Lori, first of all, everyone has such amazing wisdom. I love when you all speak. Everyone just starts talking and then I'm like, oh, it's my turn. Yeah, Lori had such great things to say. And I think that those are all very, very, very valid points, particularly with regard to those keywords. I think that those are things that I know I overlook, and I'm sure many folks do in whatever way they do. with regard to, even if it, like Lori mentioned, doesn't have something to do with your particular title in general, but it may be something that you're passionate about, or you have volunteer experience in, or it's something that you do on the personal side of things. Those keywords are really vital to how you actually turn up in searches. So like if I'm looking for example, someone who is like a senior director of gifts, right? If I'm key searching stuff like fundraising or certain budgets, those certain descriptors that could possibly be under your job description, where it shows your experience, those details, those keywords actually show you, turn you up in those searches. So fundraising doesn't necessarily have to be in your title, but if it's a keyword that you use on your profile, or if it's a keyword that you use under your experience of some sort, you show under that algorithm, right? You pop up. And I think that that's really important for someone who is looking for work, or for someone who is looking to be found in whatever way they are. Yeah, I feel like Lori hit so many notes. I feel like that's the only thing I had to add.
Thank you, Zoe. No, this I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much from the session right now. We are going to get into our last question. Believe it or not, we have question number 6, and it goes. And by the way, before I get into question number 6, I feel like we're probably going to have a part 2 to this session, because there's so much to learn and so much to unpack. It's LinkedIn, right? But there's so many things. I didn't even know that LinkedIn, you can even take courses on LinkedIn. Till someone told me that last year. I was like, what? All of this is available. So I think we probably have to do a part 2, but we'll see about that. But we're going to get into number 6. And it goes, should one put all of their previous jobs on their profile, or is it best to stick to the most relevant and recent roles? And it's a part 2 to it. And part 2, does the length of time that someone has been in a job affect your decision to reach out to them? So we're going to go to Candace first for this one, and then Shirley. Candace, would love your take on this.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just fold everything in together. So in terms of thinking about all previous jobs, my short answer to that would be no. And I think here's why. I think that, you really want to, just the same way that you would, for a resume, you kind of want to ask yourself things about, what directions or the kinds of opportunities you're hoping to attract. And I guess for me, also things that are connected to your best skills, or maybe things that even demonstrate breadth in your experience. I think there are many ways you can think about this, but overall, I think the important thing is to be really intentional in what you're sharing. So I would also add that if you've worked in the same role or for the same organization or institution or company for a length of time, I think that it's important to list maybe any changes in responsibility or changes in title, if that is relevant for you. And then conversely, if you've had a lot of maybe contract roles or shorter tenures, I think you might want to think about if lifting those experiences will help to demonstrate another level of responsibility, or if they will tie in to the direction that you want your career to go in. Because maybe that's a yes, maybe that's a no. And I do think that length of time can matter if, all of the roles are very short or all of the roles are very long. And I guess what came to mind for me with this question was just around, I think just focusing on length of time in particular could potentially leave out people who we know come from a consulting context or background. And so I think overall, really, we generally focus on skills and not particularly length of time is how I would really answer that.
I love that, Candace. Shirley, what is your take on this? Please.
Thanks, Stacey, and thank you, Candace, for your input. So I would say it depends on what your goal is. Thinking about your career aspirations, where you want to end up, is a good first step in determining how to, and I'm going to borrow Jason Murray, our founder's words, how to curate, and what I might say, how to craft your message. How would you like your story to come across? And similar to Candace, my invitation is to be selective. So oftentimes I find people might say something like selected experiences, community engagement, or volunteer roles. Underneath the title, if your title doesn't reflect exactly what you're doing, ensure that you flush that out in your profile to give us exactly all the skill sets that fall in that role. So I'm saying this hesitantly because there's no definite answer, because I've come across folks who told me I have 10 different interests, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And that's not a wrong way of approaching it. But when you have different interests, you might have to do a little bit more self-promotion or speaking on your own behalf in terms of telling people where it is that you want to head, versus someone like me. When I read your profile, I will form an impression of who you are as a professional, and I might engage with you from that perspective. And so I think it depends on who you are as a person, right? If you do have a clearly defined goal, yes, make sure it's curated and crafted. If you're the kind of person who is more free-flowing and has a lot of different interests, then you might need to put in a little bit more work into reaching out to different people in your network to let them know who you are, what it is that you're about, and where you would like to move in your career. So that's my answer to part one. And then in terms of part two, some of the things that we do look for is longevity within a role. If somebody has been in a senior leadership role for less than 2-3 years, we tend not to approach you, because we want to make sure that you've had enough time in your role to get the experience and to make the impact that you can within that opportunity. And then in terms of folks who have been in their roles for extended periods of time, I think Candace touched a little bit on this, is to give an indication in your profile, your comfort levels in change management, your style in staying innovative. How do you keep on top of trends? Because that may not be reflected in your profile if you've been at an organization for 10, 15, 20 years.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Thank you for this. We lost Candace for a bit, but she'll be back on. I'm going to go into question number 7, and this is the surprise question. I promise I'll go easy. Okay, so younger people with no experience, or people in general with no experience, what are some great tips that you can share that will help boost your marketability on LinkedIn? Zoe, I see that beautiful smile, and I'm going to go to you first.
I think the reason that I'm laughing is I'm thinking about how I ended up here, actually, and how I'm so grateful, one, to be here, and two, how I really didn't have much to speak to prior to getting to BIPOC Executive Search, if I'm being entirely honest. Having graduated very recently, I met Jason when I was at my previous position, but being able to network and have those conversations with folks who, one, you admire that the work they do, or two, the individuals that they are in their professional beings is so great to continue that conversation on an aspect of, one, having that personal connection and being able to create that community, but also with regard to where you see yourself and where you can make an impact in a position. I remember speaking to Jason when I wasn't necessarily working with these wonderful folks, and I was like, wow, they are so lovely. I love the impact that this organization makes, and how am I able to, with my limited amount of experience that I've had prior, be able to create the conversation that would mean that I end up in the room that I want to be in. And I think that a huge part of actually doing that is that community aspect, that aspect to be entirely genuine, objective, and intentional with where you want to be. I really didn't, I was able to say to Jason or whomever I spoke to in those conversations, this is what I do, this is what I have done, this is what I'm educated in, and this is where my passions lie. How can I help you reach your goal, and how can we reach that goal together? And I think that that is such a huge part, although so subjective and so so malleable for many different individuals and however they take that. That's, I guess, my biggest thing, because that's kind of what I guess I've been doing.
Yes.
But again, that's biased. So I don't even know if that's the proper answer or if there
No,
is one,
I
but
love
that's probably what I would say.
could you please repeat it again? You reached out and you said, this is what I do, and how can it be of value? Is that what you said?
It was
That
essentially of that sort. Yeah, it was in a LinkedIn message, I think,
that's
but
you know how
yeah.
powerful that is. It's just, I love that. Someone taught me a few years ago that if, when I'm reaching out to a mentor, if you want to reach out to a mentor, it's not about what they can do for you, but you study them and see how you can add some value to what they're doing, what you can bring to their table, or what dish you can add to their table, you know. And it's like offering, because mentors are usually so busy, and the people that you want to mentor usually have they usually have a huge plate that's full, right? And so much going on, so you can study their games, study what they're doing, and when you're offering to be mentored by them, also offer them some kind of support too, something that you're skilled at, something that you can give in return. Lori, I would love to hear your take on the surprise question.
Yeah, thanks. Zoe said everything so perfectly. And yeah, that mentorship piece is really important as well, Stacey Ann, and that's the opportunity. So if I dive into a bit of what Zoe said, was even if you join in those groups, your connections, connect with people that you see yourself in your vision, like Shirley mentioned, as you're curating how you want your professional life to go. So you're in university and you want a certain path, or you see opportunities that will really enhance your skills, or you can use your skills to the best that you can, you join those groups. You get insight from those individuals. You see postings for positions. And in addition to connecting with people. So connect with people outside of your network of friends or other individuals that you worked at with past jobs. But actually connect it with people that you could see as a mentor or that kind of thing. Like Zoe is a perfect example. I had messaged Jason, right? You have to take that leap as well, just like you do in your career at university or school. You take that leap and you do your research and you jump in. You may change paths, but it's all taking that progress. And also too, what's really easy, you can also list all the things you're doing in university. There's a lot of individuals that are presidents of committees and different organizations. There's so many ways that they may be involved in their communities.
Yes.
That you can add on there. So for myself, when I'm looking at a profile, I can see the things that you're involved in, you're passionate about. Like Candace and Shirley had said before too, right? Like those are the kind of things that we can get insight into the interests of that individual and to align that with the positions we're looking for, right? So there's a lot of elements that you can do in your social media profiles and on LinkedIn to enhance those kinds of things. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah.
Before I get to you, Shirley, as you're speaking, Lori, I think about somebody that's probably a creative, or somebody that is more on saying creating content for social media. They could probably put together a reel of some of the stuff that they've done. And Shirley, you mentioned earlier this individual that you came about that created an infographic, and it's kind of like a one pager. They could probably add that to their page, because LinkedIn gives you the opportunity. If you post something, you can actually add it, so it's pinned to your page. So that's one of the things that recruiters or anybody that's searching on your profile can actually see. So those are great tips. Like if you're a creator and you're not more academic per se, you can put together like a demo reel just to showcase your skills. Shirley, look at me answering my own question.
Love it. Keep going.
Me, yes.
I don't have too much more to add. So what I'll do is I'll amplify your voices, Zoe, Lori, and Stacey Ann. what I'm hearing is read, right? Read about people's thought leadership. Read books. Read as much as you can. Learn as much as you can. The second is watch. So watch and really study the people who you respect. This could be done on YouTube, video format, or in person. And then finally is integrate. Allow that learning to seep into who you are as a person, and your unique edge are the unique identities that you bring to this world. Whether that identity falls along the lines of ethnocultural background, gender identity, sexuality, religious affiliation. It's those combination of identities that make you extremely unique. So learn from others and allow that learning to integrate with the unique position that you hold in this world, and you will be able to create some magic, just like Zoe and Lori has done.
Yes, I'm loving this. Thank you so much for your time today. I know the audience I see over 21 questions right now, and I will let you know that we will get to your questions. We will answer them on our BIPOC page right here on LinkedIn or Facebook, wherever the questions are directed. We will answer your questions. We'll not leave your questions unanswered. Unfortunately, we have about 2 minutes left for this live, and I just want to say to my teammates, thank you so much. I feel honored. Every day I say this, I feel so honored to be in a space with you where I'm continuously in the process of not just decolonizing my mindset, but learning to unlearn. And it's really great to have this support. And every time we do these lives, I leave away, even as a host, I leave away with so many gems. And I take so much information from you because you're all brilliant. You're all magical. And like I said, this space that we share, it's truly an honor. For everyone out there that is watching, before I sign off, I want to know if my teammates want to say bye or anything. But if not, I would love for you all to have a truly beautiful day, a magical day, and to keep learning. I will echo what you said, Shirley. Learning, just keep on learning and do what is best for you to better yourself. Anyone wants to say anything before I sign off? Or is that it?
Stacey Ann, you're brilliant too. Thank you so much for hosting. And, you really make us all get together and ask great questions. I think it's really great for all of our community that's watching and all the different avenues. So thank you for all your hard work. You're amazing too. Keep shining.
Thank you. Okay, so we will see you on the next live. And like I said, your questions will be answered. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.